Michelle here with the Traveling Epicurean. This is my kitchen, and today I am so excited because I'm going to show you how easy it is to make my light and fluffy homemade gnocchi. This is what we're going to need to start with our homemade gnocchi. 5 extra large potatoes. It ends up being about 4 1/4 pounds. We need a ricer for sure, mixing bowl, some flour, a little bit of salt, some fresh grated nutmeg, and 1 egg. So I let these potatoes cool just slightly so I can touch them and handle them. I don't want to burn my hands. I have this great ricer. The bottom's changeable so I can actually put bigger holes in there. So I'm going to use the fine ones. This is going to make for a really, really nice texture to make the gnocchis. They're going to come out really nice and smooth. So I'm just scooping the potato flesh into the ricer. Really, it's 1 potato. I fill it up and then I push it through the ricer. If you do any more than that, it's a little bit difficult to push through. And then I'm going to push it through, and look how fluffy that comes out. It's really nice. What's really nice though is I'm going to have potato skins left over. And then when they cool, I'm going to put them in a Ziploc baggie and into the freezer. And then I could just take them out, brush them with a little olive oil, some garlic and onion powder, and fill them with all different sorts of things, cheese and chicken, green onions, whatever you can think of. And then we pop them in the oven for a little bit, and they're going to be really, really good. Just from experience, these russet potatoes make the best gnocchis. The starch and the moisture content really combine, and baking them is always how I've made these gnocchis. This is my recipe. I've gone through many different recipes just to make sure that I'm happy with my own recipe, and I've noticed that if you add too much flour, they get gummy and very thick and heavy like. So I don't have a lot of flour. You really will be spoiled when you start making and eating these homemade gnocchis. What I've always done, I've been making these for, goodness, over 20 years. I have to tell you though, you don't want to do these in a really steamy kitchen. It's the only time they didn't come out quite like they were supposed to, when it was like an 80-degree kitchen. Something changed in the texture of the gnocchi, and it wasn't quite as, it was a little more dense, wasn't as fluffy as it normally is. So here's our lovely riced potato. I'm gonna make a well right in there. I'm adding 1 1/4 cups of flour. I'm gonna add the nutmeg on top of that. I'm gonna add a teaspoon of salt. And then we're going to add the egg. I'm going to make a little well in the flour. And then we could put the egg in there. We're going to beat the egg. And then we're just going to mix it with a spatula and then get it onto the counter and start kneading it. Only for like a minute or so. So we'll break up the egg yolk and just start pulling everything in. And then at this point, I mean, you might as well just use a spatula. And just combine everything. Alright, now I'm going to get it onto the counter and start kneading. So I'm pouring this dough right onto my counter. So I have a work surface there to work with. It's going to be beautiful. And then just going to bring it together. I'm going to treat it like it's a pasta dough. It even feels light and fluffy. You don't want to do this for more than, a minute or so. Really. We don't want the glutens to develop with the flour. We're just mixing it. this beautiful dough. This is potato dough, potato and gnocchi dough. And then we're gonna have a gnocchis. All right, so now we're gonna cut it into eighths. And I'm gonna put a little flour down on the counter. And we're gonna roll out each little section into long rope-like sections. Okay? I love working on my counter. My kids love it too. And you want them only like a half an inch thick. They're gonna swell up into really big pieces. So try and be a little bit consistent. Some people don't even roll them off of a fork after this. These are the gnocchis. So you can roll them around just a little bit like that. Keep them in this shape here. Or you can roll them off of a fork, which is an Italian tradition. They also have like a wood little utensil that has ridges in it. You could purchase one of those. I just use a fork. That's what I've always done. And I want to show you how I roll them off the fork. So we're going to take the fork. I use a picnic fork because it's an inexpensive fork and it has really sharp edges. So it gives me a nice groove. So I put my finger in there and I roll them off. Put my thumb there and I roll them off. And when I pick them up, I make this crevice on the other side. You want to pick them up in the direction of the grooves. Just going to roll them onto the counter. They get stuck. They're very forgiving. Just roll it a little bit like this. Thumb in there. Roll it off. Pick it up a little bit. And when I pick it up, it's squeezing the back. Roll it off the fork, just like that. You can either roll it into your hand or onto the counter. Press down and roll off. Press down and roll off. It almost looks like a cavatelli indentation on the other side, but we're closing it up just a little bit. There we go. And then you just kind of get into a rhythm and you can just roll them quickly like this. Because you have a lot to do, so you gotta get a little bit into a rhythm or get your kids to help. We're gonna put these on a cutting board. And I'm gonna start to line them up just like this. And I'm gonna freeze them. What I also like to do is sprinkle a little flour on there. It helps them to pop off a little bit easier once they're frozen. But this is a plastic board, so they're gonna pop off pretty easily anyways. So I'm just gonna line them up, just like so. Line them up just like that, across the board. And then we're gonna put them in the freezer. And it'll take maybe about an hour for them to freeze, and then we'll put them in Ziploc bags. Okay, so I have one of my boards of gnocchi, and I'm just going, this is frozen, and I'm gonna put these right into the Ziploc baggie. When you take them out, if they're stuck, you just pop them off with a butter knife. So easy. I'll go through, put them back in the Ziploc, and then back into the freezer. Now, my favorite way to eat these gnocchis is with a bolognese sauce. But that's a whole nother show. So today I'm going to show you how to make a Gorgonzola dolce cream sauce. Very simple. Cheese, cream, white wine, let it simmer, drizzle a little truffle oil, some fresh herbs, and you're done. You can also substitute the Gorgonzola dolce blue cheese with a mushroom brie and melt that with the cream. And that would be nice. So we have a cup of heavy cream. We're going to put in a 1/4 cup of the Gorgonzola dolce. We're going to do a sprinkle of fresh thyme leaves, and then we're going to do a splash of white wine. We're going to let that come to a little bit of a simmer, and then we'll whisk in the cheese because the cheese will start to melt. I'm also going to grate in some of that wonderful Reggiano. It'll probably be about 2 tablespoons full. You want to use Reggiano because this way it doesn't get all gummy and stick to the bottom of the the pan. There's nothing worse when you go out to a restaurant and they haven't used the proper cheese and you go to eat your carbonara or your cream sauce and all the cheese is stuck to the fork or the bottom of the pan. Anyways, you have to use the Reggiano. It melts so beautifully. So it's simmering. The white wine's going to evaporate out of that while the flavor's going to stay behind and be luscious and beautiful. Got a little bit of Reggiano in there. And all the Gorgonzola Dolce is all melted. So I've turned the sauce off. And it's ready for the gnocchis. Boiling water. And we have our gnocchis. Drop them in. Just a few. And when they start to cook, they're going to rise to the top. We'll give it a little bit of a stir so they don't. Okay, so see how they're starting to float? As soon as they float, we're going to take them right out of the water and right into the sauce. Drain them a little bit into the spoon so you don't get excessive. Isn't that sweet? You know, they're a lot like making dumplings. If you ever make chicken soup and you drop dumplings into the soup, well, these are potato dumplings, so it's kind of the same idea. So I've plated up the fresh gnocchi with the Gorgonzola Dolce cream sauce and the tomato basil sauce, and I'm gonna put some fresh Reggiano right on there. We'll do some fresh herbs, and then my favorite is the truffle oil. It should be strong. Oh, it smells amazing. It has almost like a smoky flavor. If you can't smell a strong flavor to it, then they're mixing it with too much olive oil. And don't buy that brand. So here are 2 plates of gnocchi. Here's the Gorgonzola Dolce cream sauce. We are going to sprinkle some fresh herbs right on top. You know, if I'm doing more than 1 plate for a dinner, if I'm doing several courses, I want small little plates like this. And then I'm going to drizzle over my truffle oil just like that. You really don't need a lot when you have a good truffle oil. And the truffle oil, Tartufo Bianco, is much better than the black truffles. The white truffles are stronger. Doesn't that look delicious? And that smoky flavor of the truffle oil is to die for. And then we have our tomato basil, and I am going to sprinkle some Gorgonzola Dolce cream sauce. Boy, I love this one. And what I really love is the fact that it only took 5 minutes to make. And if you don't like the blue cheese, you can substitute it with the mushroom brie like I told you before and melt it into the sauce, and then you have this lovely mushroom cream sauce with the truffle oil on top of that. Who's better than you? So good. So remember, all of these recipes are at the Traveling Epicurean, and if you have any questions on any of these recipes, send in a comment and I will get right back to you and we'll figure it out together. So I hope you really enjoy these gnocchis. Ciao!